Okay, wonderful. Hang on. Index.js is here. Where is my browser? Browser is here. One. Yes, this is the one. Correct. Okay, guys, is this visible to everyone? The browser screen. Can everyone see it? And can everyone see this also? Okay, great. So today, basically, we will be covering a few things. So we will be starting with something which is known as constructor functions. We've already talked about it also. We'll just dive deeper into it. Basically, try to understand what is the constructor function, how we use it, when we use it, what to do with it, and all such kind of questions will be answered today, right? The second one is we will be covering a few of the string methods. They're mentioned in your course, so just want to put and keep an eye on them also. Let me do that. Let me just open that. What are the ones that we need to cover today? Just opening the syllabus for you guys. Okay, so today we will be talking about more on objects, right? Factories, factory functions, and yes, how getters and setters methods inside object. So I'll just explain all of that. Hi, Sonu. Certain closures when we call a function with variable, then how the variable takes up the inner function value. Closure when we call a function with variable, which means a parameter, then how the variable takes up the inner function value. Okay. I'll just explain that, Abhi. Give me a second. Just opening the detailed syllabus. Just give me one more minute. Cool, let's do this. Okay, so first we'll answer Arvi's question. So in closure, when we call the function with variable, then how the variable takes up the inner one? Arvi, samajh mein nahi aa raha. Can you repeat that? I'm able to make out that you're talking about the argument, but what exactly do you mean? Let's say, अरे आदम भाई कुछ बोला ही नहीं, रिपीट क्या करूं? आरवी क्वेश्चन बोलोगे माइक पे? अरे आरवी यार रिप्लाई तो करो, क्वेश्चन पूछ के। रुको रुको, अनम्यूट करता हूं आपको। बोलो आरवी। माइक इज नॉट वर्किंग क्या आरवी? सुन नहीं रहा है भाई कुछ? Okay, just frame your question properly. Okay, so you are talking about the fact. Go on.
Am I audible?
You are now.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes. So in that closure function, sir, when we have two functions, like one is external, another is inner, and when we call them with a variable, suppose we create a variable and we just first create the function, both the function, and when we are creating the variable, how the variable is calling that inner function. When we are putting the value of the external function in that variable, then how it is calling that inner function with that variable? That is my question, sir.
Can you explain with this example that I'm just highlighting? Is this the question?
Yes, let me check, sir.
On my screen.
Yes.
So this is add one to number. Okay. This is returning another function, right? And this is using the parameter num1 which was passed to it. Is this what you mean?
No, sir. The above that one.
Which one? Line number below.
Just 563.
Okay, this one.
Yes, I think this one.
I think क्या आरवी आपका question है?
You have given that variable that to that function, sir, but I think that example not mentioned here. 582. Okay, just go to 582, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, this one.
Okay, बताओ. What do I explain here?
So yes, sir, when you are calling that const add to number and you are calling that you are putting that first function number here, add number to number.
You mean this one? This part?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I mean, okay. No worries. What is the doubt? We called add number to number, and we called it with 1, right? So num1 was 1, correct?
Yes.
And what are you returning? What is this guy returning? This is returning another function, right?
Yes, sir. This is yeah.
Yes.
How this is calling that inner function?
नहीं, inner का तो कुछ है नहीं ना, we call तो है नहीं ना मेरे भाई. आप एक function को call कर रहे हो. This is a function. Do you agree?
Yes. Yes.
And what is it returning?
It is returning.
What is it returning? बताओ ये क्या है? ये चीज जो return किया.
Function to that function.
Function to that function थोड़ी ना बोलोगे आप. इसने क्या return किया? What is it returning? Very simple question. Complicate मत करो. What is it returning?
It is returning function, sir.
Yes, absolutely. It's returning a function, right? Can I not call a function?
But after that, you have given some value to it, and
yes, so it returned me a function, correct?
Yeah.
And what is the nature of the function? It takes one parameter, correct? num2. वही तो पास किया है मैंने. Just that ये करने से क्या हुआ? जो num1 था, its future was set, right? Because you called add number to number, which is this function, with num1, right? Which was 1, right? Then the value of this num1 is set. That's the only point of closure, right? And when you return this function, ठीक है, num1 was already set, num2 आपने pass कर दिया. And what is it returning? It's returning a number which is giving 10. So what is the doubt?
Yes, sir. Because basically we are here in 582. We are calling that upper function to that.
We are calling this. Are we upper, lower? मत करो, confuse हो जाओगे. Simple बात है. We are calling a function which is returning another function. We are storing that function in a variable. We can definitely do that, right? And now we know that this is a stored function or a functional expression, and we are calling that.
Okay, sir. So when we are calling that function, it is already linked there in the return. So it is returning.
वही तो होते हैं.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Clear है? Okay. एकदम से मतलब I just want to ask, where did this doubt एकदम से come to you?
No, sir. Actually, I was not there in your class, so I just got that revision one. So there just it was not hitting me up.
Did you watch the lecture?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Now you're clear, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And don't miss classes, okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, guys, moving forward now. Okay, going to start with constructor functions, okay? First thing, very first, right? So what did we talk about? What are constructor functions? First of all, let's look at it, guys, right? So we learned that there are many types of objects, and right, and objects have some objects have properties, some objects can also have methods on them, right? So date object has a method now, correct? We've used it. Math object has an object, has a method called floor. हमें पता है what this does. Object quite literally has something called as keys, which is responsible for giving us the keys of an object, right? Using which we had done all of this fancy stuff yesterday. This is clear to everyone, right? But now we went ahead and we realized that, hey, what is so different about this date guy, right? So guys, date mein kya ho raha hai? If you look at it in the key, so this is the date object, right? But now there is a case when we are saying new date, right? And what does it return? It returns as a date object. Okay, let's try to understand this with code. So I'm here I will say t, some variable, let t rather, and I'll say date. Okay. Doing that will provide this inside that t object, right? So now t is an object. Let's be very clear on that. Okay. How can we check that? We can just say object.keys. Keys. And it should give us all the keys inside t, but it's not giving us. The reason is the keys of t are obscured, right? Or they are hidden, right? But we remember very well that hey, we always have t dot get date, right? We can do that. We can do t dot get full year, and many other methods we can use on t. Right, guys? Do we understand this? Okay. So now, what is the advantage of something like this? Right? Let's try to understand that. Guys, so typically what we see is there could be many dates, right? So I want a D1, let's say I want a variable called D1, right? I might want another variable D2. In that, I want a different date, right? 0501, something, right? So D2 is a date, D1 is also a date, but of course they are very different dates, right? So what is the job of this guy? What is the job of this new date guy, right? The job is to create or give us a date, right? A date object using which we can do all sorts of things. We can display the date, we can compute the date, you know all about it, right? We've seen all of them, right? Similarly, what what I said is, hey, we would want to create a functionality using, we would want to create car, right? And how do we create car? We create cars by, of course, we would need a function for that. What we can do to it, I'll just copy whatever I have written here. So what I'm doing, guys, I'm doing create car function, right? And each time you call this guy basically, so let's say I call create car, I pass red to it, 10 size, engine is 1000. Okay, what did it give me? It gave me a car. It gave me a car, right? And of course, I can store it in car one. And the create car function like this. Okay, let car two is equal to again this thing. Let's say this is a yellow car. Yellow car. It has a size 9 and it has engine 800, something like that, right? So now basically create car has given us a mechanism using which we can create multiple cars, right? Is everyone with me so far? So create car basically is a factory which can create cars for us. How is this creating values to key? Good question, Shivam. Everyone should have asked that. Okay. So Shivam, when you are, let's say I'm trying to build a car object, right? How can I do that? We know objects are key value pairs, right? So let's say if I say color, I should say red. Sorry, if I say color, I should say red. If I say size, I should say 10. If I say engine, I should say 1000, right? Okay, I missed a comma. Is this one is clear, Shivam? Yes. But now in that method, what is happening is we pass three things to it: color, size, and engine, right? Now what we wanted to do is, we know that, hey, this color, this size, and this engine, we are passing value to them, correct? So we are calling create car with, say, yellow, 10,000. Is that clear, Shivam? Shivam, okay, perfect. And this is how we called it, by the way. If I were to copy that, okay, let me write this again and let me write how I was calling it. I was calling it like this, correct? I was calling it like this. Okay, so what would have been the correct way? The correct way would have been, hey, I know that this color would have color, this size will have size, this engine will have engine. So what should I have done instead, according to Shivam? Color, size, basically the variable from top, and engine. This one makes sense, Shivam? अरे बोलो ना शिवम. Forget about this. Let's forget. Okay, that also you have a doubt on. Okay, let my car is equal to this. Is this fine, Shivam? Okay. So what I'm doing is instead of creating a new, instead of storing it in a variable, I'm just returning it like this. Is this fine now, Shivam? Shivam, yes, likho jaldi se, right? But now JavaScript gives you a mechanism in which if the name of the color and the key and the variable name are same, you can just omit this. Okay, and it will just give you the same result. So that's all I've done. So now when I say create color, create car like this, these three values, right, gives me an object like this. Clear to everyone, every single one of you? Shivam's, okay. Okay, so that's what I've done. Great job, Shivam, asking that. It was not necessary that all of you would have known that. So very good, very basic question. Appreciate it. Keep asking such questions, guys. Learn from Shivam. Okay. So now we have something which creates a car, correct? Okay. Now let's try to understand the problem with this implementation. Okay. So up until now, you've seen that, hey, a car can have color, it can have size, it can have engine, right? Okay. So this works perfectly well. Okay. Now, so these were only the behavioral properties, correct? No, sorry, I'm sorry. These were just the properties or the attributes of car. But cars can also have behaviors, right? Right? So basically, I would want my car. So let's say I had car one, right? I would also want car one to have horn, right? Which is basically a function. Let's say it says console.log, right? And now basically car one has a function also. When car one dot horn is pressed or done, it says beep beep. Right, guys? Very common use case, right? Or even going further, this car object should have drive. Okay. When you drive it, it says console.log drive. Driving something, right? Okay. So these are behaviors which are going to be common to every car. Every car is going to have a horn. Every car is going to have a drive feature, correct? Now, let's understand the problem with this implementation. If we are creating a car using this implementation, guys, the problem that immediately happens is the default behaviors also, right? Right? The behaviors like drive, the behaviors like brake, the behaviors like horn, all of those behaviors you will have to pass into this function, isn't it? Did you guys understand that? Right? So that is problem number one. Okay. Now, of course, and these are behaviors which are common to every single car. So I don't want to really pass them each time I'm creating a car, right? Because whenever I'm creating a car, I would expect it to have certain default basic behaviors, right? Now, how do I go about it, right? How do I sort of circumvent this problem, right? Can anyone think of a way in which these default behaviors can be made part of the car? Anyone? Pradeep, we will be covering prototype 2-3 days later, abhi nahi, and then I will be teaching you that from the very basic. अरे यार शिवम भाई इनपुट की तो बात ही नहीं कर रहा ना. If it's a default behavior, why do you need input? It's a default behavior. Default behavior के लिए input तो है ना चाहिए, वो तो होता ही है. नेस्टेड फंक्शन का क्या मतलब है मयंक? यहाँ पे आपको एक कार क्रिएट करनी है, उसमें नेस्टेड फंक्शन क्या करेगा बताओ? इफ यू हैव समथिंग इन माइंड टेल मी. Okay. See, one thing that we could have done, right, is in the create car method function only, we could have added these things. Drive. Does this make sense? Why have you written return in second line? आदम भाई कुछ तो रिटर्न करना पड़ेगा ना क्रिएट कार से, नहीं तो वो अनडिफाइंड रिटर्न कर देगा, गाड़ी कैसे बनेगी सर? अरे शिवा, इफ इट्स डिफॉल्ट बिहेवियर तो यूजर्स क्यों ऐड करेंगे? एनीवे पॉइंट समझो. अरे बाबा, रिटर्न एट द एंड ही तो क्या है, ये फंक्शन का एंड ही तो है. आदिल भाई कहाँ कंफ्यूज हो रहे हो? Okay, let me repeat again. What I have done, I said to you guys that, hey, every car is unique in the sense that it can have a different color, different size, and different engine, right? But every car can have some default properties, right? Like drive is something which can be part of every car. Horn can be something which can also be a part of every car, right? So then I said that if we had to specify the default behavior every time, we will run into a problem, right? Where we will have to pass horn, drive, and many things here, right? But that's not a scalable solution because you can't keep specifying so many parameters, so many attributes, right? Did you guys understand what I'm saying? सब बोलो yes. आदिल आपको क्लियर है? आदिल सर पूछो ना, नहीं क्लियर है तो. Okay, if you don't want to reply. अरे यार, जो मैं बता रहा हूँ तो वही क्यों पूछ रहे हो सुधीर? मैंने क्या बोला आपको कि ड्राइव और हॉर्न ना डालने पड़े बार बार हर कार के लिए. सो वी हैव डिवाइस्ड अ सॉल्यूशन फॉर इट. पहले हमारी क्रिएट कार कैसी दिखती थी? whatever parameters you were passing to it, we were just showing those parameters blindly यहाँ पे. उसके बाद what I'm doing is to every car I'm just adding two default parameters. These are not passed यहाँ से, right? So what I'm doing is I'm just adding these two to this object यहाँ पे. Is that making sense? Sudhir, Ajit, drive and horn are methods. Methods means object functions, right? Where did the whole discussion start? Because every car can have some basic behaviors. Drive and horn are basic behaviors of a car, right? That's the only thing that I'm saying. Guys, tell me, Ajit, and that's what I'm telling you. This is how you add default behaviors. Default behaviors are nothing but methods. Methods का मतलब होता है behaviors. I have just added it in this object. So instead of now passing it as a parameter, you have just specified them here. That's the only thing that I'm saying. Method का मतलब होता है function. Guys, this vocabulary I have used many times also before, right? When I was teaching you functions and methods. You need to revise the older lectures, यार. भाई किशोर, अगर आउट ऑफ का वो रखोगे रिटर्न तो ऑब्जेक्ट को नहीं मिलेंगे ना. नाउ व्हेन यू क्रिएट अ कार, लेट्स से you create a car blue, size is 10, engine is 100, for example, right? Why are you getting the car here, right? Why are you able to say car 1 let car1 is equal to this thing, because this function returns those behaviors, right? If this function was not returning those behaviors, if this was not returning those values, so they will not become a part of your car, right? What are we doing with create car? We are creating a car, right? So what it means is it will have some default attributes. It will have some user specified attributes, and using them, we have to create a car, right? If you do not write them outside return, then how will they form part of the car? Second bit is, if you guys are getting confused about the return statement, this is just an object. Let created car or new car is equal to this, and it's just like returning that car, right? Returning the new car. Like this. Is this fine, Kishore? Can we not assign a variable for horn drive without using method? अरे यार, of course कर सकते हो. But what are you trying to accomplish? You are trying to give a car default behaviors. So you have to make them default, right? Even when none of this is passed, they should be available here, and they have to be methods. Absolutely not, Ajit. मैंने अभी return के अंदर लिखा है क्या? The point is they need to be part of this object, and this object needs to be returned. So if whether you write it in one line by simply writing return here, or you make an object out of it and then return, either way is fine. Is everyone clear? Okay, guys, bolo sab. Okay, now coming to the question, can we send a method in here? Of course we can, right? Because at the end of the day, in JavaScript, functions or methods are nothing, but they are also variables now. So let's say we had some variable which was what could be something which is specific to which is not a default behavior. I'm just trying to think. I think high beam, right? Which is basically lighting up the car. Now let's say this was, company is not a behavior na baba. Company is a name or an attribute. Behavior batao ke. Internet is again an attribute. Pata nahi kya bol rahe ho. Okay, so now let's say high beam was a function, right? Is mileage a number? Is airbags is a number? Namit behavior kaise hai? Automatic is also अरे how many airbags तो वेरिएबल होगा ना बाबा, बिहेवियर कैसे हुआ? सो हाँ, ब्रेक कैसे डिफरेंट होगा अजीत? ओके, एनीवे कुछ भी रैंडम सोचते हैं. Type is not a behavior ना. Behavior क्या होता है कार के यार, which can be different for different cars. Okay, let's call it apply. Right. So this can be something which is different for different type of, which can have different behaviors for different types of cars. Okay. Right. So let's say this is what I'm just passing it as. I'm just passing it as a single this thing, like I'm passing color, size, and engine, right? But this is going to be a method, right? How can I do this? Let's try to understand. Now I'm going to say create car, right? I will give it a color, let's say red, orange. I will give it a size, let's say 10. I will give it an engine, let's say 1000. And apply brakes is going to be a function. So I'm just passing like this, which will just say console.log brakes applied automatically, right? So what are the 4 things that I'm passing to this function? Color, size, engine, and one function. And just store it in car1. Is this clear? When I press enter, my car is created, right? What does my car have? My car has a color, right? It has an engine, it has a size. Horn and drive are common to this car, right? Apply auto brakes is a new function or a new feature inside this car, right? But when I create a different car, let's say car 2, right? In that, I will not specify this method, let's say. Now, when I don't specify apply auto brakes, it automatically becomes undefined, right? Nothing in JavaScript is undefined. Now, if you check car 2, it has orange color, it has a size, engine, everything, but apply auto brakes is undefined. There's no such thing basically. Order is not guaranteed. It can be anywhere. Don't worry about it. JavaScript tries to sort them in the name of alphabet A, C, D, E, H, S, right? But it's not guaranteed, so never bother about those things. Order of properties in an object is never a priority for JavaScript. Okay, everyone? Cool. Cool. So what have we done up until now, guys? We have created 2 cars, and we know that, hey, this is one of the ways of creating a car factory. So what is this? This is a factory of cars, right? Which is creating cars. We realized that, hey, there were some problems. What were the problems? The problems were there could be some default behaviors. There could be some default properties also, right? And there could be some things which need to be given specifically. Cool, everyone. Just look at this. If there's any doubt, please ask. Are we good, everyone? Okay. We don't have apply auto brakes as default. Then for car 2, it is given. Error क्यों देगा श्वेता भाई? For car 2, आपने pass नहीं किया. If you don't pass something, you didn't pass it, right? As the 4th argument. It was the 4th argument. Just open car 1 once. Okay, पढ़ो. Guys, is there a doubt? I'm not able to understand the question. Mayank, car 1 खोल दिया. What is the question? Okay. श्वेता, आपका क्लियर है डाउट? कार 2 में क्रिएट कार के टाइम पे हमने अप्लाई ऑटो ब्रेक्स को कुछ भी नहीं भेजा, राइट? कुछ भी नहीं भेजा तो अनडिफाइंड हो गया, एंड दैट्स व्हाट इट इज शोइंग यू हियर. श्वेता, इज इट क्लियर or is there a doubt? I want this to be clear with everyone, guys. That's why repeating it so many times. What is the doubt? Ask me now. Why I use apply brake? Array, there is a specific function. There is a new feature that I wanted to introduce in my car, right? So I used apply auto brakes. What is the problem? Prototype I will be covering later, Amit. Then you'll be able to understand it. Don't worry, be clear. So you made the apply brake function as default, right? No, it's not default, na Baba. If it was default, then it would have been already defined. It's passed as a parameter. How is it default? Apply auto brake is a parameter just like these things, right? I am just passing this parameter here. Maybe understand it. Sometimes approximately answers, others don't. Okay, what is the question? Why is apply auto brakes? It is not returning any. Okay, guys, now stop. Please stop. Please understand this. I was creating a car, right? The apply car, the create car function is taking 4 parameters now. One is the name, second is the size, third is the engine, and fourth is apply auto brakes, right? In apply auto brakes, what am I sending? I'm sending a function, right? It gets applied as a function right here. I'm passing this as a function. This is a function. Other things are properties. When I pass it here, like I said earlier, in JavaScript, either you can say like this, right? Similarly with this guy also, you can say like this, or you can just avoid writing this colon, right? So what is apply auto brakes? Apply auto brakes is whatever you pass to this guy, right? If you do not pass anything to this guy, what gets passed? Undefined gets passed, right? So it automatically becomes like this. Now, where is the doubt? Then it should throw an error as you have initiated in a function, but while calling it in car2, you're not passing it value. Sweta, that's how JavaScript works, na Baba. How many times have we not passed anything and it was never an error? If I only pass orange also, then also it's not an error. Other things will just get set to undefined because they were not passed. Why should that be an error? Yes, when you're not passing a variable, when you're not returning something from a function, by default, nothing in JavaScript means undefined. Is this clear to everyone, every aspect of this? Okay. Yes, perfect, Vishal. Vishal has summarized it nicely. Auto break is just a key in create car. The key can be a function. If it's a function, it means that it's a method. If it's a regular thing, then it's just a property. Yes, when you don't pass anything, it's undefined. And car 1 and car 2. Okay, sure, Shivam. Sure, Pavan. Okay, now I'm moving forward. Okay. So create car was like this, right? But now, guys, the problem with this implementation is, if you look at it very carefully, there could be hundreds of default behaviors, right? And in fact, I would say that a car would have more default behaviors than specific behaviors, correct? Now, if it has a lot of default behaviors, then you can't write everything in here, right? Let's say there were 1,000 of things. So you can't make this function worth 1,000, right? That is problem number one. What is the second problem? There could be a specific car, right? So nowadays we have electric cars, for example, right? Electric cars, maybe a lot of things will not apply to them, right? Maybe they will not have engine, they have batteries. Maybe they will have some other things which are probably not even mentioned here right now, right? So the problem here is with this kind of implementation is there could be cars which are highly specific or highly general, right? Right? Yes, that's just one example, Mayank. Try to understand the point and not the specific thing. The point is cars can be very, very different, right? So how do you reconcile that? What I mean to say is how do you factor for that? Or how do you build a solution which will work for that also, right? You can't end up writing thousands of properties here, right? So for that, we created a tool, right? What is the tool? The tool is something known as constructor functions, right? So why are constructor functions existing in JavaScript? Let's first understand that, right? And what are constructor functions more importantly? Okay, let's try to understand this, guys. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to redefine my car. Okay. And I'm just going to pass three properties to it: color, size, and engine, as always, right? Inside this function, I'm going to write something which I'll write later. But now one thing that we know about constructor functions for sure is that they are called with new keyword, right? And that's what new also stands for, kind of, right? New means creating something new. So let's say if I had car one, let car one equals, when I say new car, right, which is basically the name of this function, right? What it should return me? It should return me a car, right? Right now, what is happening is it's giving me an object of called as car, which is empty. Right? What is this prototype? I will tell you later, don't worry. But do you see what is happening right now? It's giving me an empty, it's giving me an empty object. Does everyone understand that, guys? Right? Now, how do I fill this object, right? How do I fill this object? So again, what is new? New is used to invoke constructor functions. That's the only thing I'm saying. When a constructor function is invoked, it returns an object. I said only these two things. New is used to invoke, right, or call a constructor functions, right? Basically, any function in which you write the new keyword becomes a constructor function. That's all I'm saying. Clear, everyone? Right? The second question that you should have, is this: how do I assign properties to this car? Okay. So now, guys, we move on to a very important concept in JavaScript, right? This concept is known as the concept of this, THIS, right? It's completely different in Java, Sudhir. Please don't write all these things on chat. Sun lo. Okay, the point that I'm trying to make is, guys, if you write any not relevant comments, I will have to stop the chat. Please focus. This is very important. The point of learning this is not really, वो आप खुद भी कर सकते हो. Learn this new, learn this without knowing anything. Please keep your head empty. Okay, moving on. In JavaScript, we introduce now the concept of this. Okay, so what is this? Is a very important concept in the world of JavaScript. So we'll understand this also in some detail here. Okay, for now, what I'm going to do is, please understand this. I will say this dot car, this dot color is equal to color. Similarly, this dot size equal to size. Lastly, this dot engine equal to engine. Okay, and that's literally what I'm doing. Okay, so what was my existing function? I've just changed it to this guy, right? Now let's see what happens when I say new let's say I say let car1 equals new car. Okay. Right. Just look at it, guys, 1 second. Right, guys? Everyone is clear? Let car1 is equal to new car. Now let's see what is inside this car1. I will explain what is this, Adam. Just give me a second. When I say car1, what is it having, guys? It's having color undefined, size undefined, engine also undefined, right? Let's try to improve that. In this, I'm just going to pass red 10, 1000, right? Now let's look at car1. What happened? Car1 has these properties. It has color, it has engine, and it has size. And how did I call car1? That's the more important part. I said, let car1 is equal to new car. Okay. So what must be going on, right? Let's try to understand that. Okay. Guys, whenever you call a function with new, what did I tell you? It becomes a constructor function, right? Now, what is this constructor function? Let's just get done with this now, right? In a constructor function, when you call something with new, JavaScript does two things. Let's please try to understand that. Okay. It's not written here, but this is how internally JavaScript works. Okay. It creates something called as THIS or this, right? Then it initializes it to an empty object, right? Finally, you do something in the middle, and at the end, instead of it, and guys, please be very clear. Here we are not returning anything, right? So what should be the return type of this guy? The return type of this guy should be undefined, right? But in the special case of constructor function, JavaScript does two things. One is make this, create something known as this, which it makes into an empty object. Secondly, it returns this. This is how JavaScript internally works. So I'm commenting these out because that's not the code here, but JavaScript will behave like this. Okay, let's now try to understand this again. I created this function. I'm calling new car with red 10 and 1000. Okay. What do you get, guys, in return? You get an object, right? And what is the object like? It has color, it has engine, it has size, right? Behaving exactly similar to the older objects which we had created, like this. Create car, right? I'll remove this so that there is no confusion. Does this make sense to everyone? Very important concept. Need to be learned, right? What is JavaScript doing internally? Two things. So, okay, let me repeat this. Let me summarize this for everyone again. Okay, so what are constructor functions? Constructor functions, yeah, Amit, don't worry. See, this thing is something that we will learn a lot more about as we move forward into this curriculum, right? So today I'm just introducing this keyword, right? This thing, this particular thing is one of the, it's considered one of the very complicated concepts in the world of JavaScript, okay? So today, this is your introduction to this. And what we are learning is just one use case of this. There are 5 more. Okay, so please, again, let me repeat myself again and just understand what I'm going to say, right? I'm saying these two things, right? I'm saying two things, okay? One, what is constructor function? Constructor functions are special types of functions which are invoked with a new keyword, right? Whenever a constructor function is invoked, of course, with the new keyword, it does a few special things, okay? It behaves as if at the beginning of that function, this keyword was created as an object, right? So this thing happened. Then whatever you do with it is up to you. And finally, it returns that keyword, right? So guys, if you really look at it, it's no different than us having created, let's say, another object. That's my car is equal to this, right? And this ki jagah mein my car, and my car, right? My car. Right? We could have done this. There is nothing as inheritance, Shweta. See, guys, did I ever mention anything about inheritance, inheriting? Did I say, use these words? Then why are you bringing them up? I have told you time and again, आप लोगों ने दूसरी languages सीखी हैं, बहुत अच्छी बात है, guys. But bringing them up right now is just making no sense. Then don't call. Then where is the word inherit coming from, Shweta? No, it can't seem right. Inheritance is a concept. Inheritance is a word. It's not inheriting anything, right? Anyway, my point is, if I write it like this, right? If I write it like this and I call car like this, okay? Simple concept. Again, I'm repeating this, guys. I say color, I say red, I say 10, I say 100. Do you guys understand this? Someone was saying, oh, they were not understanding. Bodla Sai Kumar, do you understand this? Do you understand these 3 lines? That's all I'm asking you. Bodla Sai Kumar. I am just writing the same thing. Please answer this. Do you understand this? Yes or no? No, there is no constructor यहाँ पे. Constructor function is only happening when there is a new keyword. यहाँ पे there was no new keyword, so no constructor. This is not a constructor function. This is a regular function, right? Right. Now let's write the constructor version of it and let's get clear with this एकदम से. ठीक है? What will be the constructor version of it? There will be no my car. It's going to be just this. And there is going to be no return statement. Okay. Why does this? And okay, now let's run it also. Of course, now you can't call it like this. You have to call it with the new keyword, new car. Okay. Simple, these 3 things. I'll just copy paste. What are you getting, guys? Are you getting the same object or not? Are you getting the same object or not? Absolutely, Ajit. You said it completely. Now, either I can stop telling you here, but what I told you, अंदर क्या होता है? See, this is not common knowledge, guys, but I'm telling you because I want you to understand how JavaScript internally works, right? Internally, JavaScript is doing this. Please understand this if you want to. This starts becoming an object, right? It starts pointing to an object, right? Then JavaScript also returns this. Okay. Now, this is absolutely not common knowledge, right? Why am I telling you this? Because I know how internally the engine is doing it, right? So you can imagine that this happens. This is literally what happens. It creates an object. It assigns whatever you do to it. So if you compare these 2 guys, just compare these 2 once. Take a minute and just compare these 2. This one and this one, just compare these 2. आरवी आपको बोलने का जरूरत ही नहीं पड़ेगा, just compare these 2. Done, guys? Did you compare these 2? So what is going on here? I don't know what you're talking about, Budla. Sai. Normal function have return type. That literally does not make any sense. We've already talked about functions. When you return something, it returns something. There is nothing as type in JavaScript. Yes. This refers to the object. Right? In this guy, what is happening is you are literally creating that object, doing things to it, and doing this, returning that. But with a constructor function, all that is taken away from you. You don't have to do any of this. Right? That's the point of a constructor function. It takes away that detail from you, right? So now the way it works for you, hey, I'm creating a car. Okay, I'm putting some detail to it. And that's all I have to worry about. I don't have to worry about creating a new object, right? But now think of it like this, that when you were creating your car one, this car one is the things of this car one were being accessed inside this function. So when we say which car, this car, right? Which car's engine, this car's engine. Which car's color, this car's color. Right? But internally, how it's working, we know it's very, very simple. Two things happen. One is this is created as an object like this. Second is it's returned like this. That is what is internally going on. Externally, this is the result you get. Are we clear? अजीत जब बताऊंगा तब सुन लेना. Other uses of this. ये समझ में आ नहीं रहा है. Guys, सबको clear है? Please write clear. This is extremely important. A lot of things that we do now are going to be built on top of this. We are now entering the world of core JavaScript. What happens? I'm not answering those hypothetical questions. Do you understand this or not is my first and only question. Can you answer that? Ajit? Okay, now wait. Don't confuse yourself, yaar. Everyone is good with this? Cool. Okay, let's move forward now. Now let's understand what was the point of this. Okay, so now we know what constructor functions are for sure. Right? I'm just going to move these notes because this is extremely important for you. Sir, in what we add behavior of car? In what we add behavior of car. So the question नहीं समझ में आया. Repeat करो दोबारा. Okay. Having said all of this, let's move to the next part of it, right? Okay. So this was the first time when we introduced this, right? First use case of this, right? Now let's talk about the second use case of this. Okay. So what I've done is I just written some code for you guys. Okay. Already, I'm just typing that code out. Okay. Now, guys, just try to understand this code. Okay. What I'll do is I'll just copy paste this code to the console. So now, just to give everyone context, we are moving deeper into the world of objects, right? And there we will get a lot more answers about this and how the objects get formed and a lot of things, right? This will be very important for the next topics. So we've just had an introduction to constructor functions now, and now we are going deeper into objects, right? Everyone understands that? Sudhir, I will take that question. Just give me a second. I will take that up later in one go. Right now, just understand this. Okay. So what is this? Right? This is, okay, by the way, before saying anything, guys, there is another way to write. So either you can write the function like this. Okay. Either you can write the function like this, or what you can do is you can remove this also. This colon is not required in the case of normal functions, right? So you just write it like this, right? This will not be an arrow function. This will be a, so this is basically the equivalent of this. So either you can write this guy, or you can write this normal function, right? So this is basically the shorthand way of writing this. Clear? In any object. These two, what I'm saying is, these two things are equivalent, and they are, of course, not arrow functions. Guys, do you understand? Okay, perfect. So drive on, that's it. That's the only thing I said. Now what I'm doing is I'm creating this person, right? And I'm writing some this inside it. Okay, let's try to understand what happens. Okay, so we know that person is basically an object, right? It has first name, last name, language, and it has a function lang, lang, right? When I say person dot lang and I call that function, did you see what happened here? Did you see, guys, what happened here? What is it returning? It's returning this language only, which was set here, right? Oh, I mean, to make it very, very clear, I'm going to call this as me, and I'll say return this. Cool. Now when I say person dot me, what are you getting, guys? What are you getting? What is this? No, it's not a function. Please, soch ke bolo. Which object is that, Chinmay? Which object is that? It's the whole person object. Understood? So what have we just achieved, guys? Right now, what have we achieved? Me is the function. Return this. So guys, the basic point that I'm trying to make is that when there is an object, inside that object, there is some function. This, in that case, refers to that whole object. That's the only thing I'm saying. It refers to that object. Whether it returns it or not is a different thing. You could have first said console.log. And now when you say person.me, nothing will be returned. It will just be logged. Right? So what have we now learned? We have learned the second use case of this. Okay. So I'm just going to write it here. This here refers to the whole object. To the, or the better way to say it is to the owning object. So the object which owns the method or the function using this is what it refers to. Do we understand that? Okay. Cool. Now, coming to this, guys, what is the use case of this, right? Why is this so important? Okay, let's understand that. So typically when you're creating a function, right? So I'm just going to rename this. I'm just going to make it into a car, right? What we had seen is car name. What we had seen is name, color. Let's keep the definition same, red. And now what I'm going to do is I'll write fuel here. Fuel, which basically shows the amount of fuel that the car has. So let's say it has fuel 10, right? And now you have drive. Okay. So now, of course, when a car is driven, right? When a car is driven, what should happen? When you're driving a car, technically its fuel should reduce, right? Should that happen? Yes or no? Chinmay, Amit? Yes. Using this technology, what we can say is this dot fuel minus minus, or very simply, in other words, this dot fuel is equal to this dot fuel minus 1. And now let's drive our car. Let's see what happens. Okay, so this was our car, right? Okay, it says already declared. Anyway, reloaded the browser. When you say car.drive, what happened? Let's look at car again. What is the new fuel value? Understand, guys, making sense for everyone? How we are mimicking, how we are creating real life objects which have behaviors and which have properties, and those properties are being changed by their behaviors. That's the point that I'm trying to make. Pretty cool, right? Using this, you can construct your whole car. If you have multiple properties, you can just play around with them. Right? Okay. One more thing. When you're driving a car, when we said car.drive, it returned undefined. Okay. What should it return? It should return something technically, right? I would say it should return the new value of fuel, right? So I'm just going to say return this dot fuel, right? And probably at console.log fuel reduced to fuel. Copy this, put here, reload, say car.drive fuel reduced to 9, and what it is reducing, what is it's giving you? It's giving you the new fuel level, which is 9. Behaviors are changing the properties of the object, right? Which happens in the real world, right? What happens in the real world? in the real world, when you're driving a car, its fuel reduces. Whose fuel reduces? That car's fuel, right? And where does the concept of that come from? This comes from, sorry, this car's fuel reduces when you drive this car. That concept is right here. अरे मेरे भाई कलर लिखेंगे तो शो करेगा ना, कार में देख लो कलर लिखा है, मैंने मिटाया नहीं है. Why should it return that? When you are saying return this dot fuel, तो वो object क्यों return करे अजय? बताओ. Is this dot fuel an object? Or is this dot fuel a number of that object? सोच के तो बोलो यार. Okay. Is everyone clear with this? Calling behaviors which are changing the properties. Okay. I know these are heavy concepts. These are heavy concepts. So I'm just going to stop here for today, because we've talked about constructor functions. We've talked about how we can change those, how this happens. And finally, we've discussed two use cases of this. One is here in case of constructor functions, and one is here. Okay, this is fairly complicated, but I think we've all understood it. Have we understood it? Have we understood it is the first question, everyone. Revision chahiye, I know that. Believe me, I know that more than you do. But did you guys understand the whole point of the matter, right? Okay, wonderful, great. इसको दोबारा read करना. Just go through this lecture again. Just go through these notes again. Okay, I'm pushing them right now. Okay, stopping here. Return this will show the whole object, because this means the object. So whatever you return, it shows. Okay, so we'll stop here for today, definitely. Amit, for that, I have to teach you one more thing, string interpolation. So it was supposed to be covered with string methods, which we have not covered. I was thinking about doing it today, but it's getting very heavy, right? So not till then, till tomorrow. Tomorrow is the first thing when we do that. It's a small topic, and then we'll again start with our journey of objects, right? So in the next couple of days, we are just going to get deeper and deeper into objects. DSA has nothing to do with the language. You can learn it in JavaScript, Java, C++, whatever you're comfortable with. This keyword, अगर अजय आप खुद ही अपना क्वेश्चन आंसर कर रहे हो, सुनो. This is if this is an object, right? तो object के अंदर एक key होगी ना, fuel. So when you say this dot fuel, that key will happen, right? That key, which is the value of the fuel of that object, that's what is happening. Thank you, Mayank. Thank you, guys. Yes, Amit. Good night, guys. Good night, everyone. Thank you, everyone. You guys also stay safe. COVID is spreading. No, Siddiq, we are here to learn every possible thing about the language. We will learn all of it and then we will make our decision. It's not like there is a best way or there is a not good way. You need to know all of those things. It's not like I can just teach you the best way and you will learn JavaScript, right? We are not here to selectively study. We are here to understand the core of the language.